this is Russ. Yeah, I'm back in the car again. What are we doing in the car talking about e-bikes? Alright, here's why we're in the car talking about e-bikes. I'm not going to be around the green screen much this week, it seems, but I did want to talk about e-bikes. So I decided I'm just going to put a car video with the background of us riding a bike. How's that? Still works? Come on, it still works. Alright, so anyway, something came up as far as a topic that I thought would be interesting to talk about. I was watching Tennessee e-biker Mark. Yep. He used to be Oregon e-biker Mark, but now he's in Tennessee. He was mentioning about, he prefers to ride with his feet touching the ground when he's on the bike. Even if that means just tippy-toeing to be able to touch the ground when you're riding the bike. And I wanted to talk a little bit about full leg extension versus having your seat height lowered. Yep. Which we call the saddle, but many people call it the seat. But I usually call it the saddle. I don't know why I said the seat. So anyway, I was thinking about it, and I said, well, I would be one that probably you wouldn't be able to touch the ground if you sat on the saddle. Yep, you wouldn't be able to, because I have a full leg extension. Now, what do we mean by full leg extension? All right, that's where when I'm sitting and I'm pedaling, okay, my leg on the full downstroke is not quite totally knees locked out straight, slightly bent, but pretty much straighter than a lot of other people have it. Yeah. And if you're a long-time bike rider, which technically I am, but I'm not like one of the guys that that do the what some of us call the spandex group. I'm not one of those guys, never have been. But I always enjoyed riding a bike, and I rode my bike probably up until I was in my 50s. Yeah, early 50s. Then that's when my knees started having issues, and then I didn't want to ride a bike anymore because my knees were hurting. But I always rode my bike with a full leg extension. Now, after my knees had issues, okay, I stopped riding my e-bike, of course, and then then I was riding a mobility scooter for a while. Yeah, and then of course then the knee replacement happened. Then I got an e-bike, right? But I always kept that same thing where I kept the extension full, not so far down that your knees are quite a bit bent when you're rotating your pedals. And I think you'll find that most people who ride a non-electric traditional bike, if they're serious riders, they typically would ride that way. Yeah. And then again, like I said, I wouldn't call myself a serious rider, but I always enjoyed riding my bike. I mean, even when we got married and then we moved to San Diego, I got a bike. And then when we moved back from San Diego, I bought a bike. Yeah, I mean, I've always had a bike, and not that I rode all that much in comparison, but I always to the other guys in comparison to the other guys, but I always wanted to ride a bike. So, but even as a kid, I always rode with a full leg extension because I felt that you got more power out of that and it was less knee strain. Mm-hmm. So anyways, he was mentioning something about, people who have, maybe knee problems and other issues, about riding their bikes. And I just kind of thought that, well, for me, at least I can tell you my experience. If that extension wasn't there, and I had to pedal, it would put more strain on my knee. Yeah. So as a knee replacement patient, or fully recovered at this point, and while I had my knee replacement stuff going on, I needed the full leg extension. Yeah. I talked to my physical therapist too about that, and he says does the knee have more strain when you don't have the full extension? He goes, absolutely does. He says, you want to ride it, on a stationary bike when I was going through rehab. Right? He says, you want to ride it with a decent leg extension, even though, it's kind of like hopping up on the saddle to get there and doing it. So for me, I've always ridden with a full leg extension. Okay, with a slight bend. Okay, don't get it wrong. It's not like you have no bend in your knee when you have the full extension down, but you do have slight. And I'll tell you that most of the serious bike riders will ride like that. Now, can we stay seated on the saddle when we're stopped? And the answer would be no. We can't. That's how the whole question came up for Tennessee e-bike and Mark. And I said, no, you can't do that. Oh, we got an ambulance coming up. Well, we can't move. We're in a left turn lane. He's going to have to go around the left turn people. This will be interesting. Yeah, that's pretty loud as he's passing us. Well, because of him, we lost our left turn signal now. I'm going to move up anyway, so that when that thing starts turning to the red, I'm gonna turn. So anyway, that guy kind of wrecked up my train of thought. You know how that is with me. You ruin my train of thought, everything gets all messed up. Anyway, yeah, so hopping off the saddle is one of the reasons why people don't want to stop at the stop signs. That's basically what he was basically saying. And as we know, I typically don't always stop at the stop sign, like almost never. All right, we're making our turn. But I do slow down and I look. I do the yield thing, right? And everyone knows that in our area that's not allowed to do, but we do it anyway. And a lot of the riders along with me do a similar thing, and that's how this whole thing got started. But I still feel that the full leg extension is a needed thing to do for me. Yeah. Otherwise, if I was only going to throttle only, then it wouldn't make a difference. Then I might as well lower the saddle. Why tip over, right? But I don't always just throttle. A lot of people have said, Russ, you never pedal. Well, that's not true. I don't pedal all the time on camera, but I do pedal. Yeah. Another thing that he brought up too was about throttles, and others have mentioned throttles too in comments. Whether a throttle is really necessary. I kind of think it is, especially for people who have had either knee or hip type or mobility type issues. To get started on the bike is a lot tougher without the throttle. I mean, you have to pedal down, right, to get the bike moving. And especially if it was a non-electric bike, it would even be tougher. But with an electric bike, of course, the minute you start pedaling, especially if you have something like a cadence sensor, the motor would help you. And of course, a torque sensor would help you too, but a cadence sensor would just take over, right? So the question is, do they really need to have throttles? And I do. I actually throttle when I'm stopped, okay? I will throttle to get started before I start pedaling. When I pedal, okay? I usually pedal when you guys are not watching. I think I started this whole thing by not pedaling when people were watching the videos, because when I first started e-biking and I first started the channel, I would get quite winded while I'm pedaling, and I said, well, that's not good on a video. Who wants to hear me huffing and puffing? So I started to throttle the majority of the times when I was talking on camera. Nowadays, it's kind of a toss between the two. You'll see me throttle, you'll see me pedal, and then I usually will pedal on the way home. Yeah, when I say, okay, and I sign off on my videos, I'll pedal on the way home to get some additional exercise and that. So now another question came up. I don't know if it was his or somebody else, was saying who was it? Southern e-biking. What does he call himself now? Sorry, I keep forgetting. I do watch your channel, okay? I can't remember what the actual name. I think there was a slight name change, but it's Southern e-biking, right? Yeah, I guess you had to look it up. We had a little discussion in the comments section about, about throttles, and he doesn't believe throttles really is needed as well. And I'll tell you this, especially with 28 miles per hour and stuff going on, I need the throttle on there on a class 3 e-bike as well. Okay. There's times when I'm actually riding and I do kind of need that throttle to help out. Oh, should have turned there. Okay, I'll turn on the next one. And I would actually prefer, if instead of doing a pure class 3, I think that was our discussion, was pure class 3. Pure class 3 doesn't supposed to have a throttle, but I still want the throttle there, okay? What I would like to see is class 3 be modified to say 20 miles per hour on throttle and 28 miles per hour pedaled. Because if a class 2 is able to be ridden around with the throttle, why can't you have a class 3 ride around with the throttle as well? Just don't let it go past 20. Then it's essentially almost like a class 2. And then it's actually class 3 when they're pedaling to 28. That's my feeling. I think when these people made the rulings for these classes, I don't think these guys are guys that actually ridden these bikes at all. I really don't think they did, because if you really think about it, if you're going to allow a class 2 to have a throttle, a class 3 should also have a throttle to at least 20. But I don't get it. All right, I'm here. So anyway, if you agree, go ahead and put a comment in there. If you disagree, put a comment as well. I don't mind. As long as we're not nasty to each other, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. But Russ is always right. I told you guys. Had to put that in there, okay? All right, if you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know what your thoughts on. Okay, so let me know what your thoughts are on the throttle issue, on a class 3 bike. Do you agree with me? I mean, rather than pull our throttles off altogether, just make it 20. I mean, I know a number of bike companies are doing that now. Yeah, they'll give you a 28 miles per hour with a 20 throttle. If you think that's okay, and modify the class 3 rulings, I think that's the way it should be. And then let me know about the leg extension. Okay, let me know if you do a full leg extension, and the definition for me for full, like I said, is slight bend, not like totally leg straight, locked in knee, or whether you think everyone should be pedaling with a lower saddle so that you can touch the ground. Okay, all right, talk to you guys next time.